There is a phrase in the Bitcoin community: I came here for the number go up, I stayed for the revolution. Unlike other revolutions in human history, this one is enabled not by the sonic boom of credit finance military hardware, but the death thrum of Bitcoin mining rigs. This is not a story of terahash and megawatts which I will share. It is the story of Eduardo, a man who lives around an hour from me, on the side of Mount Poas in Costa Rica, in land that has been owned for 5 generations. Many years ago, Eduardo had the smart idea to utilize the abundant hydro resource from the steep rivers running through his property and to build a micro hydro station. The project was successful but capital intensive, and he took out a large loan to pay for the capital costs. But because of being able to sell power back to the grid each month, he earned a steady profit on a monthly basis. That was until COVID hit. As businesses shut down, so did the demand for power. One day, without warning, the state-owned energy utility ICE contacted him. We are suspending power purchase agreements with all private generators of electricity, effective immediately. Suddenly, a steady profit had become a massive debt burden. After months of rising debt, having tried many things, including a tech ecotourism business which had earned some revenue but not nearly enough to pay the monthly repayments, he went to his bank manager, put the keys to his property on his bank manager's desk and said, I'm handing over possession of the micro hydro station, the property and all its dwellings to you. His bank manager was shocked and said, whoa, hold your horses. Let's just see what happens in the next 6 months. Eduardo said, who was hardly behaving impulsively, well, I can hold my horses if you can hold off interest repayments. They negotiated and a 6-month mortgage holiday was arranged. But it was only a stay of execution. He still had a massive debt burden. Some months later, he was talking to his son-in-law. Have you tried Bitcoin? He said. Eduardo's reaction was the same as mine when someone suggested Bitcoin as a strategy for me. What, that Ponzi scheme? Forget it, he said. But his son-in-law was persistent. No, Bitcoin miners need lots of energy. You have lots of energy, and they can locate anywhere. That was the moment a light bulb went off inside Eduardo's head. Within days, he'd purchased his first S19 miner, hooked it up to his power station, and was mining Bitcoin. 2 days later, he was sitting in a cafe, eating a meal that he'd bought with the Bitcoin mined, running some numbers and realizing that by scaling up to hundreds of Bitcoin miners, he'd solved his problem. The only problem was his bank manager did not share his enthusiasm for the solution he'd discovered. See, due to Costa Rica having strong adoption of Bitcoin, people were preferring Bitcoin hardware wallets over bank accounts, Lightning transactions over bank wires. We cannot finance anything with the name Bitcoin on it, said his bank manager. However, if you call it a data center, I can give you a loan. A deal was struck, and the rest is history. 3 years later, I visited Eduardo's 60-hectare property. To describe it as paradise is no exaggeration. He now employs 40 staff on the property. Hiking trails and zip lines run through it. Free-range animals roam the property. Migratory birds stop off on his water reservoir as they travel south. The land is chemical-free, grows its own food, and thousands of people, from school students to executives, utilize this abundant property on a weekly basis. He has become an avid supporter of Bitcoin in the community, runs his own node, and holds Bitcoin educational seminars for people. Where would you be if it hadn't been for Bitcoin mining? I asked him. He looked around his property and said, well, that hydro station would be rusting. We wouldn't have any jobs. And I would have had to squander the property of 5 generations. Eduardo's story is no anomaly. As Eduardo said to me, everything is energy. Everything that seems solid is in fact just energy. The only choice we have is, do we squander that energy or do we utilize it to reach our human potential? Whether it is hydro energy in Costa Rica, microgrid energy from Africa, heat recycling in Finland, bathhouse heating in New York, grid balancing in Texas, or utilizing the biogas from a landfill in Utah or a pig farm in Ireland, Bitcoin mining companies are turning wasted power into flourishing energy distribution ecosystems that benefit humanity. Right now, as the miners and the supporters of the Bitcoin mining ecosystem, the chart that we follow is not the Bitcoin price, but hash price. And right now that chart is telling us it's winter. Just as Eduardo was in winter, when he was ready to hand the keys of his property to his bank manager. But there is a phrase in the Caribbean coast of Costa Rica: the deeper the night, the closer the dawn. Winters are for builders, there where businesses are created or forged, because we are freed from the expensive illusion that it is our own efforts rather than some economic tailwind that is propelling us forward. It's when assets are cheap, when the smart lean in. It's where the future summer of harvests are created by our actions in this winter. You are part not just of a business, but a movement. You are the protectors and defenders of a human freedom network. But not only that, you are redefining our relationship with energy at a fundamental level that will permanently benefit humanity. Troy Cross once shared with me, normally we just get to watch history, but we are part of creating it. As people in the Bitcoin mining ecosystem, you are standing at the junction of not one, but 3 revolutions. A revolution in money, a revolution in energy, and because both of those are predicated by giving power back to people and a network of peers, a revolution in human freedom. You are here today because you play an important part in defending a human freedom network. As such, there is a nuance to our revolutionary slogan. I came here for the number go up. I endured the difficulty adjustment go up, and I participated in 3 revolutions. Enjoy your conference.